The drug dealer turned into a rapper at the drop of a hat, starting a rap battle with the two. But no trick could escape old Dan's eagle eyes. He needed to pull off a round, but with a gentle nudge in the drug dealer's throat, he instantly magically regurgitated the treasure. Under old Dan's mind games, the drug dealer quickly spilled his connections, and then Dan took Jack straight to the drug dealer's crib even though he was currently enjoying prison. But it didn't halt his outside business. Old Dan used scrap paper as a fake warrant, pure roleplay. Subtitles, he forced it into Sign's home, with only his kind wife and 10-year-old nephew a family get-together. Old Dan told Jack to keep watch in the living room while he soldered into the bedroom for a robbery. After a big rummage, Jack noticed old Dan hid something. Instantly, Dan calmly walked out of the bedroom. He claimed faulty intel, tried to leave with Jack, but was halted by the woman asking for the warrant copy. Dan gave her scrap paper classic scam. He hinted Jack to flee, but the woman, realizing she had been stood up, rushed to the bedroom. When she found Dan took her $40,000 stash, she roared out like a lion, screaming loudly. Drug dealers in the area opened fire at once, a real fire drill. Old Dan stood firm, shouting to Jack to start the car while dual-wielding guns in a friendly clash with dealers, striking with precision like an unintended blast. Soon, the dealers were overwhelmed, and Dan dove into the car like a rabbit escaping from the scene. Speedy get time's up. Jack's dissatisfaction with Dan erupted. He directly scolded Dan for firing in the neighborhood. This isn't a shooting game. And definitely not like a thief taking other people's cash. Dan curtly told Jack to park, and after stepping out, he launched into a sermon. Either shut up and learn from me, or you can just go back and be a traffic cop. Dan's words turned Jack's face into a question mark, and after a battle with himself, he hopped back into Dan's sports car. Dan drove into the area controlled by the Jungle Gang, causing Jack to panic, as his instructor warned him, never go there without a tank, a real jungle rule. Jack's heart sank as Dan's calm demeanor amazed him. He saw Dan cruising through the community, with no dealers bothering them, looking like old friends. Dan explained that he was very fair to these dealers, as long as they played by the rules. Everyone could live harmoniously. Shortly after, the car parked in front. Dan came only to visit his lover Van. Awkward Jack had to play games with Dan's legitimate child in the living room. After an indefinite time, Dan woke up Jack, who had fallen asleep outside, to introduce some friends like a commercial shoot for meeting online pals. But to Jack's shock, everyone present was top brass from the police department. Turns out, Dan had gone wild in Las Vegas last weekend. In a fit of rage, he ended up killing a dealer. Surprise, that guy was some Russian mob boss relative. If I don't cough up $1 million before midnight, they'll have me on the hit list. Now this was a big deal. So, Dan devised a smart plan to raise funds by taking out a drug dealer under his surveillance and planned to meet some bigwigs for approval. With the green light, Dan took Jack and left the club, sneaking the $40,000 headboard from the dealer into the chief's Benz trunk. Sure enough, money works wonders. Just half an hour later, Dan's crew scored a legit search warrant from the police, and Jack followed them straight to the dealer's lair. With a shout, the armed crew burst in, swiftly catching the reading dealer by surprise. Jack then realized the dealer Dan mentioned was just Roger, who seemed totally unprepared and offered no resistance. Just then, Dan, who'd been directing from outside, strolled in and tossed Roger the search warrant he bought for $40,000, wearing a smug grin. He clearly stated his purpose for crashing the party, then led them to the kitchen. What a party crash! Having long figured out where Roger was hiding the loot, after some digging from the crew, they finally uncovered layered cash under the floorboards. They uncovered $4 million, mind-blowing. It was like an advertisement for easy money. But Jack rejected the loot Dan offered, insisting he was just a rookie in the precinct. The others thought he was joking, absolutely hilarious. Until they realized Jack was dead serious. Panic set in because only by participating in the split could they keep the secret under wraps. But Dan had a trick. He told Jack to shoot Roger, making Jack the LAPD hero if successful. What a comedy. Yet Jack understood what that really meant. He intended to joke his way out, but was met with Dan's icy glare. I do this for humanity, Roger's LA top villain. I've tracked him for 10 years. Dan grabbed the gun, aiming at Roger. With a bang, Roger met his end, while Dan set up the scene like a pro, causing Jack to erupt in fury. He grabbed the gun and aimed at Dan's head, but Dan didn't even flinch, as if he held the cheat sheet. If you even think of spilling, it'll get the department to deal with you. I'll be out for having residual cocaine on your record. Talk about a sly plan. Everything was part of Dan's grand scheme. If he shot, not only was his head on the line, but the safety of his family would be jeopardized. Jack's tough choice left him in despair. Having no choice, he retracted his identity. Dan defended, Rogers Alley top dealer. Taking him out is my duty. He reassured Jack, taking him down is to protect everyone. If he just hits the precinct, I'd be back on the streets in no time. How shameless. The reality is harsh. It's always tit for tat. Only people like Roger get what's coming to them. After calming Jack down, they sped to their destination, like chasing victory in a cat-and-mouse game. Dan claimed he was bringing some care packages to a dealer's relative. But when Jack followed him in, there was no sign of any need whatsoever. These folks have such unique tastes. Kid want to play some cards. I'm not into cards. I just want to... The dealer's brother led them to the kitchen, and Dan claimed he needed to use the restroom, leaving Jack to wait here only to wait for what felt like with nothing to do. Jack ended up playing cards with a few buddies in the house, yet Dan still hadn't emerged from the restroom. Jack started to panic inwardly, thinking, this doesn't feel right. I need a way to save myself.